Hello everyone, welcome back for another RGB RPG's DM Prep Guide. Today we are taking a look at session 19 of our Descent into Avernus campaign, and this is a really awesome session, or group of sessions we're about to have here. The party is finally going to make their way down to the surface of Avernus, and we get to really begin to explore the namesake of this adventure, the first layer of the Nine Hells, Avernus. There's just so much amazing lore out there right now available for this to be able to flesh it out for your campaign. But there's so many videos out there. I highly recommend Mr. Rex and AJ Pickett specifically. They are really great when it comes to lore. Jorfton does some really great videos as well. Jordan, PH Silent guy. But if you're running Avernus, be sure to check out some of those videos out or read up in the books. There's some good stuff in Mordenkainen's Torn with Foes, specifically about the Blood War. But yeah, this is where the real meat of the campaign really comes into play. They're going to spend longer in this chapter than any of the other chapters we've experienced so far. So let's go ahead and dive on into our prep notes for the session. We talked about in our last prep notes video that we did make some adjustments to how we have organized our checklist and our prep notes. The video describing that in more detail is coming. So first thing we do is review our characters. A lot of them have very straightforward reasons for being here and reasons for doing the things they're doing. But we are going to be looking at Anicola for this session and probably the next couple sessions. An item that Anicola is searching for, rumored to have been in Elturel. Elturel has fallen, and now we get to figure out what might have happened to that. Specifically, it's a Staff of the Woodlands that the character will be getting later on in the campaign as the level of the pirate character's power becomes appropriate for that. But Anicola will find that the item has been stolen, and we'll get some hints as to who might have taken it today. So, we also got our full backstory information from Bill the Butcher, William Poole, that you see there. We'll be filling that out before our next prep breakdown and really diving into what we might be able to do with Bill. Valifon, pretty straightforward, wants to learn about the Blood War. He's going to get a first-hand opportunity to do so coming up real soon here. We'll go into details about what that means in just a second. Althea and Kroll, their motivations are very simple. Kroll wants to get Avernus out of the Nine Hells, and Althea basically is just looking to smite evil. Straight up. Pretty straightforward. So let's go ahead and get into the next part, which is creating our strong start. The party is going to start off in Elturel still in the High Hall Cathedral catacombs, where they will be able to plan, and some planning is going to be necessary because they need to get to the surface. So our session introduction, our strong start, is going to be the party prepares to descend into Avernus. Descend to the surface. We talked about this last one, but we've added the paths section to our prep notes, and we want to do at least 1 or 2 bullets, 1 or 2 lines per hour of gameplay, since my sessions run about 3 to 3.5 hours. We have 4 today. So, find a way to get to the surface. There are many different ways that they could go about doing this, whether it be finding a way to fly down. The way that their imagination is the limit on how they get down. Even the book says, listen to what they have to say, listen to their ideas, and then come up with the checks and whatever may be necessary accordingly. If they can't come up with a solid idea themselves, then the idea of climbing the chains to the surface will be presented to them either by Gargoth or by somebody observing with them. Did forget to mention that they went through a secret passageway in the High Hall Catacombs that gave them a view of what's happening below. It's also the best vantage point for them to figure out how to get to the surface. So yeah, there's a few different things that can happen when they get to the surface. First off, they fail. They fall. That is almost certainly deadly to whoever falls. This is one of those opportunities where it's entirely possible that a TPK could happen. Getting to the surface is extremely dangerous, and the failure of doing so includes up to death. Failing to do so in a serious enough way could very well result in the characters dying. For example, falling from the top of the chain all the way to the ground is already 40d6. It's insane. We're almost to the max damage that can be taken during falling at that point. and yeah, it can be devastating to a party at this level. Um, and not to mention the fact that if they do fall, they have two options of where to fall: the river Styx, which immediately hits them with the feeble mind when they hit the water, or into the battle of the Blood War, where they are extremely likely to simply just be torn apart by demons and devils that are raging the battle below there. So yeah, really great, really fun part. Finding a way to get to the surface, and then once they get there, a couple different things can happen. If they manage to avoid the main bulk of the fighting that's going on below the city, um, patrols are all out scanning the area, making sure no devils or no demons specifically got past the front lines. So the party's likely to run into one of those patrols unless they're very careful, very sneaky, and do their best to keep themselves hidden, because as the party has been made aware, there are flying patrols that go around as well. I'm toying with the idea of having the Narzagun make another appearance, that mounted rider that's been flying around and dispatching demons within the city. I'm toying around with the idea of having him have two directives: destroy any demons that make it to the city, prevent any mortals from leaving the city. Two very simple directives for a creature of that power, and he is more than capable of taking care of those. So if we feel like we want a very difficult fight, or maybe they're not taking the descent down the chains seriously enough, the Narzagun will show up and start harassing them. So we have that idea. And then we have to travel across the wastes to Fort Knucklebone. I do expect only to get this far, where we're traveling across the waste. We get to describe some of the things that are happening, and this is where a lot of the I call it research comes into play, where I just read books and watch movies and absorb media that puts me into the mindset of hell. And one of the movies that comes to mind is What Dreams May Come, as well as, bear with me here, but the Magic the Gathering, their old books, the Artifact Cycle, namely the Brothers' War and Planeswalker. Those two books dive into the plane of Phyrexia, which is Magic the Gathering's own hellscape. And it's structured very similarly to the Nine Hells. And a lot of the imagery that comes from Urza Planeswalker traveling through the layers of Phyrexia really give me a lot of inspiration for how I structure the Nine Hells and how I present it to them. Because it is a place, people live there, things live there. They call it home, they don't know anything else. And at the same time, it's also where damned souls go to spend eternity, so it's not a very nice place. And so, that in mind, I have a couple different encounters, and it's very visual storytelling encounters that I have in mind. Of course, combat can happen whenever. If it feels like the characters want to combat, they'll get one. There's a mountain of different stat blocks we can use for random encounters in the Nine Hells. But the visual encounters, the ones that kind of show them where they are, one of them is they come across a cliffside, and down below is what looks like a seething mass of some sort of liquid, and then if they look closer, they'll see that these are tens of thousands, if not over 100,000 lemures, all just moving their way agonizingly across the surface of Avernus. The lemures are the very first stage of being that a mortal soul will go into when they get to Avernus. It's terrible. They're basically just mounds of flesh with vague instances of faces, and some will grow arms. They're essentially harmless on their own, or even in larger groups, but if someone was to fall into something like that, I couldn't imagine them maybe making it out of there alive. But just this sea, literal sea of flesh, each part of it being an individual soul that has been damned to the hells, that's been damned to this fate. Maybe if they get a closer look, maybe they see some of the cultists that they killed earlier in the adventure languishing in this river, this lake of bodies. Things like that. And the thing that comes to mind is the scene in, I believe it's Brothers' War. It might be Planeswalker. It's Planeswalker. It's the second book in the Artifact Cycle series from the Magic the Gathering book series. But Urza is walking through a field, and the floor is made of people's faces, and he sees people in here that he recognizes. And that imagery always just stuck with me as an image of hell. But yeah, it's supposed to symbolize him walking over the people that he had to get to here. But yeah, just that imagery of this endless sea of people that have been damned, and now you passed over these people. Imagery like that, I really enjoy using for Avernus, really to nail home where they are. Um, yeah, things like that. Encounters like that, I may come up with something on the fly, listen to what the characters are talking about or what the players are talking about and what kind of things they expect from here, and use that to create other similar type of encounters. So yeah, traveling across the waste to Fort Knucklebone is where I expect us to get to today. But if they do get to Fort Knucklebone, they get to meet Mad Maggie. She is a night hag and a warlord of Avernus, and this is her home. And that's one of the things that's going to be. It's always a bit difficult to drive home for these players. They simply cannot go up and fight everyone they see. Even these hags, even devils that they meet, if they simply just get into a fight, into a boxing match with everything that they meet in Avernus, they will die. There is no way that they can just be this hostile entity running around down here fighting everything they come across, just because we in hell evil, everything in hell evil. If they do that, they won't last long. They will have to make alliances. They will have to work with these entities to reach a goal. And 99% of the time, all they have to do is strike a deal. Something that is mutually beneficial to both the party and whoever they're working with. Mad Maggie is the first instance of this. They really should get the idea that when they are welcomed into Mad Maggie's fort, that if they do try anything, they'll be slaughtered. There are dozens of creatures here, most of them relatively weak, but there are a few very powerful creatures here. So much so that if the party were to start a fight here, they would be quickly put in their place. So yeah, meeting with Maggie, she's going to present herself as this kind, grandmotherly woman. She's going to recognize Lulu and ask how the party came across her, ask how Lulu's been. And Lulu will remember that this person wasn't exactly terrible to her. So yeah, Chukka and Clonk, the two Kenku, ended up finding Lulu, and then bringing her to Mad Maggie, who then traded her away, as people do in the Nine Hells. But yeah, that we'll get back around to that. But Mad Maggie does wish to assist the party for her own personal goals, of course. She wants Lulu's memories, doesn't want to take them and keep them as her own. She has very specific tastes. Mad Maggie loves the suffering of others, and to simply bask in that suffering is more than enough payment for her. Lulu's suffering is exquisite. The ordeals that she has been through make her just this 5-star meal for Mad Maggie, once in a lifetime opportunity. So she does offer to help the players out, but we're getting a bit ahead of ourselves. Let's go ahead and get down to our keys. So our paths: find a way to get to the surface, survive the battle, evade the patrols, travel across the wastes, meet Mad Maggie. For our keys, I have the Alexandrian remix linked right here. There is some amazing resources there. It's all free on the website. Just type in Avernus Alexandrian, you'll get there. Excellent resources. It's a lot, and I doubt anyone out there has taken all of it and applied it to their campaign, but reading through it and picking out a few different choice things that you might want to use is definitely a good idea. So yeah, I have it linked right there for easy reference. We went over that. The staff Anna was seeking, it was inside the catacombs, but was stolen. I put here that it was stolen as soon as Mad Maggie discovered it was in El Terrell. I'm not solid on that yet. It's just a suggestion for myself. So yeah, several ways to get to the surface. If they do decide to climb the chains, they'll have to make 2 checks against the infernal energy that is pulsing through the chains to avoid falling. Falling is a multiple layers of failure type of thing that will likely result in death if all of those levels fail. Talk about the Narzagon. Zariel is no longer below. She has left her pit fiend General Lucille in charge of the battle below, so the players will not see Zariel fighting in the battle below. But it is still incredibly dangerous nonetheless. If they do, say they make it 100 feet from the surface and then fall off the chains into the midst of the Blood War, that is a survivable experience, although extremely dangerous. If one character is left alone in that melee, they will be killed. It'll be a narrative thing, mostly. Maybe a couple checks, a stealth check, a dexterity check to avoid a swinging massive house-sized sword or club or something. But if a single player falls and the rest of the party does not go to assist, that one single player will likely die. If the whole party winds up in the middle of this fight and hasn't fallen far enough to take critical damage, they do have an opportunity to sneak and fight their way out. If they fight too much and draw too much attention, they'll start to draw the attention of the Pit Fiends and the Balors and the other nasty threats that are in that battle. But if they only kill what they have to get out, it is possible. So yeah, once they reach the outskirts, they are going to have to deal with patrols that are out there. Again, they can't be snuck past, they can be avoided, but just another obstacle. Now, then we have the trek across the wastes. I didn't really take too much notes on that because I only have the one idea thoroughly in my head over what they're going to see, and I want the rest of it to kind of to listen to what they have to say and then build scenarios off of that. A lot like what we did in the Candlekeep Mysteries episode when they went into the forest surrounding Three Tree Hill. I think it's right around episode 8 or 9 of the Candlekeep Mysteries game, but that really showed me the importance of allowing improv to really take the lead sometimes. So I like to give ourselves opportunities to let that kind of stuff evolve. So when they get to the fort, when they get to Mad Maggie's fort, Gargoth and Lulu can both lead them there. When they get to the fort, they get a nice little fun, lighthearted encounter where a bunch of crazy goblins and little goblinoid type creatures, redcaps and madcaps, I think they were once gnomes or something along those lines, but they're at the gates and they make all of these ridiculous demands of the players. We won't let you in unless you turn around and slap your friend in the face. Okay, now fill your pockets with sand. Empty pockets do not enter this place. And they laugh at each other whenever the party obliges. I had a party just say, fuck this, and fireballed the group. And they all shrieked and ran, and then one of them popped up and said we were just kidding and opened the gate for them. These creatures are not there to keep the likes of the party out. Mad Maggie and her people at the fort are more than capable of handling a group of adventurers. So they're just there to make sure that like none of the other warlords make their way in. We'll touch on that a little later, but that's their main purpose, to make sure that they don't get assaulted by a gang of wandering devils on infernal war machines. So yeah, eventually the party will let them in one way or another. And then we have Mad Maggie recognizing Lulu. They get to meet Mad Maggie. She comes hobbling out of her garage. Very Mad Max-esque, hell is. And Fort Knucklebone is really the first opportunity we really get to explore that. So yeah, Mad Maggie recognizes Lulu and is very curious about how she got back to Avernus. And Lulu doesn't remember a whole lot about Mad Maggie, except that Mad Maggie didn't do anything to hurt her or do anything mean to her. So, and then we get Mad Maggie's deal that she is willing to help the party, and her only price is that she gets to see Lulu's memories and relive all of those traumatic experiences that Lulu went through. So yeah, moving on. Non-player characters, we have Gargoth. We've been over Gargoth a lot. Most of that is still the same. We have outlined a little bit that he is going to begin assisting the party more thoroughly, more specifically. He's going to begin laying out his plans for how he wants to help the party and helping him. Lulu, we get some more of her memories back. Her spell casting abilities are about to get unlocked a little bit more. And then we have Mad Maggie, who we've talked about in depth so far. The one thing we haven't mentioned about her is that she has an agreement with Zariel, where Zariel allows her to operate in relative peace and does not force her to fight in the Blood War as long as Maggie can keep the other warlords of Avernus in check. Maggie, of course, being one of these warlords herself. Notable locations. I've said this a couple times, but in modules, this isn't as important a step. Most of the notable locations are already fleshed out for us and thoroughly described in the text. But we have the Battle Below the City, Avernus, which we have a link to our Google Docs on a full breakdown of all of the features of Avernus. And we have Fort Knucklebone, which is that massive Mad Max-esque fort built of infernal scrap, and Mad Maggie creates and upkeeps infernal war machines there. So party will get their first opportunity to take a look at this. Soul coins will also be introduced as something that the party will either have to make use of or suffer for not using. So yeah, relevant stat blocks, we have a lot, as you can see. The likelihood of us using all of these are slim to none. It's just these are the ones that are possible. We have Pit Fiends, Glabrezus, Hezraus, Horned Devils, all kinds of crazy stuff could happen in that battle down there. We have Fort Knucklebone. The main stat blocks that we want to take a look at today are likely going to be the patrol. This is the good outcome. Bearded Devils and Spine Devils are on patrol on the outside. The party's dealt with them plenty of times. They'll be able to deal with them again. But yeah, I don't really expect... Well, I hope combat does not erupt at Fort Knucklebone. If it does, things will not go great, but it's possible. And then what's most likely to happen in that case is Mad Maggie puts the party in their place, says, don't do that again, lays it out for them how it is. You know, this is a place just like any other. You can't just show up on the Prime Material, walk into a castle, and just start slaughtering everybody and expect everyone to be cool with it. Yeah. So yeah. Not any items or rewards in this section. I really racked my brain trying to think of an appropriate place, but one of the things that I've found in running modules is you really want to try and keep the distribution of magic items on the level with the adventure. And this portion of the adventure just really doesn't have any items for the party to pick up right now. As they go and explore Fort Knucklebone, and as they go and start exploring the Plains of Avernus and start getting to some of the more notable locations, there'll be plenty of items. But for this section where we're traveling from Elturel to Fort Knucklebone, not really any magic items for them to pick up. Unless, of course, they managed to slay a Pit Fiend. I didn't even put that here because the idea of them doing that at level 7 is just so far beyond, especially if they land in the middle of a Blood War where this Pit Fiend has its infernal army behind it. There's just no possible way. But that being said, if they do manage to pull that off by some miracle and some insane dice rolls, Infernal Tack and a Helm of Devil Command are the two big items that they can get from that. Again, I think C-3PO would have a hard time calculating the probability of this happening, but still possible. Alright. Campaign map is pretty simple. Get to the surface, couple Zariel's sword. Put into there. Talk to Mad Maggie. Can't type. Okay. So yeah, that's really it, everyone. That's probably about as much as we're going to get to with this session. Can't go too far into where we're planning on going ahead because some of my players do like to watch these a couple sessions before, a couple sessions after the session that the prep is done for. So if I make a prep for session 19, some of them like to watch it after they've played session 20 or 21 or something like that a couple sessions later. So I try not to put too many major spoilers in there. But yeah. Thanks for watching, everybody. As always, if you're watching this on YouTube, these do become available on my Patreon a full month before they make it here to YouTube. So, if you are a DM who wants some added insight as you're running the campaign, go and check that out. Thank you very much for watching, everybody, and we'll see you next time.